Okay. So my name is Auntie Jill or Jill, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Oh, look at that. She can entertain people and post for me. I love you, Amy. This is the set aside prayer. Dear God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, my disease, the big book, and the 12 steps. Everything I think I know about the program, the fellowship, all spiritual terms, and especially about you, God. So I may have an open mind and a new experience with all of these. Please help me see the truth. Amen. Now, for those of you who are new here, the reason we read this prayer is that we come in here to have a new experience with the book. And I guess this is my fifth time explaining this part of the book in this group. And I'm in a completely different place with it than I was last time. Because what happens is that my relationship with the book changes as my sobriety time increases. So, for example, I'm having a lot of sponsee experiences now, which I didn't have a year ago. I'm working with a group that are chronic relapsers intensely, and we're meeting as a group and treating it like we're in rehab. We check in every night that each other's got their head on the pillow sober. It's a chat group, and every Tuesday night we're talking about the same pages, but from a different perspective because they're on step one. They're nowhere near step 11. But here's the thing. No matter where you are in your sobriety, you can learn step 11 and be given the gifts of step 11. Step 11, although it's often referred to as a maintenance step, is actually something you can do right from the very beginning. As soon as you've got a connection to a power greater than yourself, even if you haven't done your fourth step inventory and done all the other work, you can be working on your connection with your higher power through prayer and meditation or whatever means works for you. So let's just review what step 11 says. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. God is as we understood him. Okay. So for me, I say here, contact with HP because I refer to my higher power as HP. Praying only for knowledge of his will for us or her will for us and the power to carry that out. Wow. Like when we break this down, this is really powerful stuff. And I don't know if I love these paragraphs so much because we read them every morning and meditate at 8. But I guess why I love them more today is because I actually do them. And tonight, what I want to do is share with you how I practice step 11. I don't share this in Meditate at 8 because it's personal, but I'm going to tell you exactly what I do because it's worked for me. And I've been sober on the 14th of February. It'll be 3 years from free from alcohol. And on the 17th, it will be 3 years sober from opiates. So I'm a double winner. I have very low odds of making it, and I'm here to report I found a way. And a very big part of my program is step 11. So prayer and meditation are our principal means of making contact with our higher power. It says so in the 12 by 12. But a prayer and a meditation, just like your understanding of God, can be your own authorship. AA suggests a bunch of prayers, and Bill Wilson writes in throughout the big book a bunch of prayers. And as we've been going along, we've been tabbing them. But there's no reason, if those words don't resonate for you, that you can't write your own prayer. And in fact, although I've published on my website, AAAmen.com, a playlist of all the AA prayers as written, some of them don't mean anything to me. I'm just being honest with you. They don't resonate with me. So just like the set aside prayer, I'm writing a version that resonates with me. And my prayers always start, "Hey, HP, it's Jill again." Because I'm having this ongoing connection and conversation with HP, just like it says here in step 10. I'm improving my conscious contact with my God as I understand him or her to be. And all the conversations I'm having are as stipulated in this step 11, praying only for the knowledge of what my HP wants me to do. I'm not asking for Christmas presents. I'm not asking for anything other than remove from me anything that's standing in the way of helping others. So I've had 9 joints replaced. You guys know I've suffered from all sorts of illnesses. You've been in the hospital room with me. As recently as May, I had fluid on my heart and double pneumonia, and I spent 3 days in emergency with you on the other end. And I let go. I found in there, I knew I wasn't going to die. I knew it was a freak thing that happened to me because I just knew I had more to do. And so I relaxed and took it easy. And I got better. I've been told I wouldn't walk again 9 times, let alone ride a horse. I'd do all of those things today because I know my HP is going to look after me. I let go of the result. So let's go now in your big book. This is so exciting. Okay, so we're on the bottom of page 85. Now, I know we read this every morning, but we don't read this first part. Okay, and this is what I want to talk to you about first. It's so exciting. Okay, so if everyone's got their big book, we're at the bottom of page 85. Step 11 suggests a prayer and meditation. So we just said those are 2 ways of connecting the way we want to. So define prayer and meditation yourself, right? You may start off with some other people have written, but feel free to be creative and personalize this, like everything in the big book. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Okay, you're always going to have people, if you pray, that are going to make fun of you if you drop down on your knees in the middle of a plane with 2 nuns that have just been ordained, like my sponsor did. Now, I'm not saying that I'd be comfortable with that, but that's what she did because the newly ordained nuns asked her to. And she's comfortable enough with her relationship with a higher power that she could do that. Anyway, we shouldn't be shy. That is up to you to decide, okay? Better men than we, again, that's dated material, better men or women than us are using it constantly. So it's like, don't be embarrassed about this. It's your spirituality, you know? And one of the things I've learned in this program is it's personal. I don't shove my God on you and you don't shove my God on me. This program is not about religion. It's about spirituality. So let's make that clear from the first. All we're talking about here are conversations you're having with your HP. Okay, so there's nothing freaky in here about it. Now it says at the top of page 86, it works if we have the proper attitude and we work at it. I have a confession to make. The first year and a half at Meditated 8, I did chores and while I was listening to the meditations, and I did not really get into any sort of meditative state. And where I really first went into a state of meditation was, I'm being honest, 2 months ago, lying on the beach in Mexico, where Ron played that one about putting about your head on your heart and your head on your head and head and heart. And I actually felt something I'd never felt before. And John said to me, "What just happened to you?" He said, "I don't know where you went." And I said, for once, I focused and let the meditation carry me, and it carried me. So I had a whole new experience because I went in, that's like our set aside prayer. I went into it without prejudice or bias. And for once, I was relaxed and paying attention and not being distracted. And I'm glad Ron repeats that meditation because I listened to it and now it's become a working part of my mind. Okay, so do you see how this works? You choose a few set prayers, and we're going to get to that in a section. But it always has to do with the principles that we've just been discussing, which is getting out of self and helping others. We don't pray for Christmas. We don't pray for this and that. We pray, generally speaking, for the principle of getting out of self. And by getting out of self and getting into a spiritual realm, whatever that looks like for you, you don't think about drinking. You just don't. And you don't think about using because you're thinking about helping other people. It's that simple. Okay, so we're now at the end of that first paragraph. It says, it would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. Okay, so definite and valuable suggestions. This is the paragraph before what we read every morning. Definite. This is not just a suggestion. These are very, and what was one thing when Bill wrote the book, the one word that he was told to go back and edit out of his chapters, and that's why it sounds funny sometimes, was the word must. And he missed some of them because no alcoholic likes to be told what to do. And it was suggested to him that he change the word must to suggest. And that's, he hit it in most places in the big book, but there's several places where he forgot to do it. So here he's using strong language. He's saying definite. This isn't wishy-washy. This isn't a suggestion. Here's some value definite suggestions, okay? So here we go. Are you ready? The nighttime prayer. And I have a recording of this on the website for what it actually says in AA, what it is. But here's the kicker. Here's what they're saying. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Now, what are those things? When we did our 4-step inventory, that's a lot of the stuff we were looking at. Where were we resentful? What were my resentments? So here's where we stay current. So what I have, and this is a personal thing to me, is a pad of paper, because my granny, who was very good at sleeping at night, did this. I have a pad of paper next to my bed at night, and I have resentment written down. And I've got selfish, dishonest, and afraid written down. And so every night when I go to bed, I just quickly look at that pad of paper and I go, okay, is there anything on the Richter scale today that leaves me feeling that I somehow might end up having to make an amends to somebody? Because that's really what this is about, the maintenance step. If you don't correct, no matter how long your sobriety is, a resentment when it starts, and we know that resentments are the number one takers down of alcoholics for relapse. We know that. It's said elsewhere in the book. Resentments, number one thing that's going to take you down. And that can happen in relationships when you're sober. You can end up having a resentment against an institution. You can end up having a resentment, and it's very easy to do that in this political climate, against governments, political parties, political individuals, if you let your head go there. So at the end of the day, and I've heard people recently go back out with what they were drinking at was the outcome of an election. That was just an excuse. That should never have been allowed to grow into a deep resentment. It should have been something that was on their Richter scale at the end of the day saying, this is upsetting me. I'm no longer feeling that I'm in a state of equilibrium. I'm in a state of dis-ease. Now, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I can't afford to be anywhere but ease. Ease is right here for me in my brain. I can't afford to be too high, and I don't want to get too low. I kind of liked being high, but I have to be afraid of that because after every one of these came one of these. So I fight to stay in a state of ease. What happens when I'm not in a state of ease? I'm in a state of dis-ease. I'm in my disease. Dis-ease, disease. I'm into alcoholic thinking. If I allow myself to get too far here or too far here, I need to stay at a state of ease. And these meditations are what are going to get me there the next morning. So see how this works? At nighttime, I'm going through my day. There's nothing more I can do about what's happened during this day. But you have ever tried to fall asleep when you know you've done something pretty crappy to somebody, even if it's just a verbal argument and you've got 15 years sobriety, or you know you've hurt somebody's feelings or whatever it might be? Here's when we jot it down. And it's amazingly cathartic of how just taking pen to paper works, the same way as when you do your step 4. Just jotting it down, okay, I screwed up today on this point, and tomorrow morning I have to fix it. That is why this paragraph appears before on awakening, right? It's helping us at the end of the day see where tomorrow I can go back into action and fix up any little blips. At this point, we've not allowed them to become the calamity or the garbage of our past because let them fester, right? We've cleaned it up before it got smelly, right? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Just let some nods would be appreciated if this is, yeah, thank you. Okay, so this is a maintenance step, but it's also something we can do. And I learned to do this before I'd even gone through all the steps with my sponsor and completed all of it. There's no reason why you can't keep cleaning up your house today on a daily basis so that when you get to step 4, your list isn't going to be as long. Right? So it's also your conscious connection with God is helping you practice the principles in all your affairs. Because at the end of the night, this is homework for everybody, every day. Recall at the end of the day, did I do any of these things? So on the top of that paragraph, those are the questions that you're going to put on a notepad and ask yourself at night. And now I'm going to carry on. So we've asked ourselves, are we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? If so, jot it down. Going to clean it up tomorrow. Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Are we looping on the hate? Are we thinking of something over and over and over again? Right? Do I need to clear the air with you? I had to do it with somebody in a meeting I led in the other day. I immediately phoned her after the meeting and said, I need to get this out. I want to know if I crossed a line. Turned out I didn't, but I cleaned it up right away. Do you see what I'm saying here? So if you can do it right away, terrific. If not, by the time you've got at the end of the day, this is your daily inventory. Okay? Nighttime reflection. And then it says, were we kind and loving towards all? I mean, that's a pretty big, high standard to hit. But today, if I'm practicing these principles in all my affairs, the salesperson behind the counter deserves the same dignity and respect that the people of my family do. And if I've been nasty to someone because I've been hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, or just plain witchy, I've got to go and fix that. And the end of the day, I can make that list. And then just a general, what could we have done better? were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of other people? Now, we're not saints, but did you do something today that for somebody else and maybe not even tell anybody about it? You're just becoming a good person. You're just becoming the best version of yourself. This is the 2.0 version I keep talking about, living in the solution. You're going to be the most beautiful person because you're going to get to the point where this is a working part of the mind. And before you snap at somebody, you catch yourself, right? It's not just about going ahead in life as bullheaded as we were when we were maybe dry drunks and still living in an alcoholic state of mind, blaming everybody and everything else for our situation except our own self. That was me. I had many years of sobriety, but I just wasn't a very nice person. I was so selfish because I was going to build my career, build my little empire, and I didn't care who I stepped on to do it. Totally in self. Wasn't drinking. But you can be as drunk in your thinking as you can be in active drinking. It's not emotional sobriety. Okay, so, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? Somebody called my bluff on this one 2 months ago. And they started something they didn't finish, and I got really upset about it. And I took on a bunch of people and I couldn't take on anymore. And I said, I'm going to create a website so everybody's going to have all the same resources I have. As you know, I launched it. Today, I live at the end of the day looking back and saying, okay, primarily everything I did today, even if it's not the stuff looking after business, but that's still looking after other people, right? If I look after my businesses, my employees stay paid. So think about what you're doing. And your motives may be just going to work and doing your job, but you're helping other people and you're being honest by doing that job honestly. Okay? Then it says, um, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? Yeah, life expands. The more we do for other people, the more full our life gets. But we must be careful. Now, this is a warning. Write this down right where it says, careful not to. Circle that and write in the big book. This is a big warning about doing what we're doing on this nighttime step. Do not drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. What is morbid reflection? Looking back at all the mistakes and all the bad and all of the ghoulish things we've done. Be careful not to drift into that, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. We don't beat ourselves up at this step. All we're trying to do, guys, we don't do anything but step one perfectly. What we're trying to do here is be a better person. And I'm doing my best job of it at a daily basis. And sometimes I fall very short of where I would like to be. But at least today I've got a standard of where I would like to be. Do you understand the difference? I did never ever registered in my to-do list for what I was going to do today to help another human being other than myself. But we're going to get to your to-do list in a second because that's what we're reading every morning is our daily to-do list. So the reason this nighttime things come on here, and I just want to finish first of all with this last sentence. After making our review, so after we've made this list, we ask God's forgiveness and we inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Highlight that. What does that mean? Sleep on it. So this is the nighttime meditation that I do every night. It's just my little list. Okay, I ask myself these questions and I've got them written down on a pad of paper. And I can share that with you guys as a PDF. If Amy was here, she'd do it. But remind me and I'll give it to you. I have this on a PDF. It's my list of these questions, but you can write them out for yourself on the top of a pad of paper, whatever's, and it's better to do that in all honesty, because make it personal to you. Because it could include things like, did I call my mom? Or things that, did I call so and so, or something that's nagging us that we know we have to do. And that can keep reappearing on our list. But here's the thing, like my granny said, if you write it down and then we say, okay, I'm going to ask forgiveness now. I'm sorry I didn't measure up to everything I'd hoped to be, but I tried to be the best person I could today, HP. And, I fell short on a few things that I've just figured out from this list. So, do you think tomorrow when we start the day, those could be the top of my to-do list? And then we'll discuss it in the morning and pick it up from there. And HP, can I have a good sleep tonight? Because I'm really going to need a few hours to right some of these wrongs and to do for others what I want to do. That's my prayer, or something like that. Do you see what I'm saying about personalizing this stuff? Really, it's like a warm duvet if a prayer feels good. I wrote that one on my it's in my website called Put My Head on the Pillow Sober Tonight. I wrote a poem. I say it every night. And then I have people that are in my no more relapse group text me every night and say, head on pillow sober tonight. And that accountability is helping them. So that can go on my, list of things that I want to improve on, or I can stop and I can say this. Good job, Jill. And I want each of you to, in your list tonight, make another column. It's just like the character defects. And I've never thought of this before. This has just hit me this second.
Jill,
Yeah.
who's this Lexi G person? There's a comment and it's not very nice.
Oh, is it okay? I think they
No.
came in and left. Oh, yeah. Lexi G. Can someone take a picture of that for me? I've got a stalker.
Okay.
That's them. Um, so, yeah, this is what's happening to me. But, it's more important that I'm here for you guys and passing this on. And I'm not going to let a bully stop me from speaking my truth and trying to help you find what I've found. So this does appear periodically. It appears in Meditated Aid. It appears in the Bronx. People usually catch it. The guy's really sick and he wants to shut me down. You know why he wants me to shut me down is because you guys are getting sober. A lot of people are getting sober. And that's all I care about. And I'm not going to be bullied anymore. I am not going to let anybody stand in my way of sharing what I have learned to help you. So let's just ignore that and carry on with the reading. Okay, so is everybody up to date now with what I'm talking about? In that we're talking about a nighttime, end of day meditation and list that's going to be the opening act for our On Awakening. So this is also step 10. I just want to also describe to you as a spot check inventory. So it's kind of like making sure that we're current. And sometimes when we're doing this, it will occur to us, oh my gosh, that's deeper than step 10. That's somebody I really owe an amends to. That can happen if you can't sleep and something's popping into your head, or you're having a dream over and over again that someone's appearing. That's a subconscious way of telling you that maybe that should be something you look at a step 4 on. Now, if we don't deal with these things, what happens to me is I get an emotional hangover. Okay? I may have emotional sobriety, but it's at risk if I don't keep my emotions in check. And if they're going up really high, now that I'm not trying to drown them in a substance, I've got to do something with this situation or it's going to take me down. Can you see that? So this is not just a beautiful little thing we say every morning and some little sweet prayers. This is me taking daily inventory of what I've done through my conscious hours to make sure that I'm not, and also it's also So here's the thing I was just talking about before I got distracted. I think we also need to put in here, here's what I did today for others. Good job, Jill, because I'm actually really bad at giving myself any credit for what I'm trying to do for other people because I suffer from low self-esteem. So I'll do something and I'll immediately think it's not good enough. Or I'll immediately think, oh, you're going to do some, criticize it or say something horrible about it. And so if you've ever done this, this is quite typical of alcoholics. I will suffer from imposter syndrome and then self-sabotage my own success because at the last minute, I don't think I'm worthy of success. That's why everybody was yelling at me, publish the website, because I kept saying, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. My voice isn't good enough on that one. I have to redo this one. You know, at the end of the day, it's out there. And if I need to redo something because somebody has got a very valid point, like, Jill, you're a little over enthusiastic on this one, or something isn't working on the video. I just did a penguin meditation. I just didn't know how to show it for you. I've read On Awakening to Penguins. Anyway, I digress. So we're now on page 86, where we start every morning. On Awakening. Okay, so this means as soon as we get up in the morning or at meditated 8. I don't always do this independently. Okay? The first time I may hear these words is when someone reads them in our group. On Awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Okay, so what this is telling me is really when I first open my eyes before I go on meditated 8, I should take a look at that list I did last night. And on the PDF I would have shared with you, which is unnecessary, I just then have today's to-do list. So I've got the things I carried over from last night that I'm going to address, maybe that day or not. And then I write down, and this is really helping with people in early recovery, the exercise I'm going to do, the nutrition, the mend, the meditation, the exercise, the nutrition, and the development. What 4 things am I going to do for myself today? And I'm going to set those as goals. Under exercise, when I first got sober, it was try to go outside for 5 minutes without throwing up. You know, it was a reasonable goal at the time. Today, it's, you know, with my shuffle down the ice with the dogs and try to do 2 kilometers. You know, it's a different time. But we set our goals for where we are at in our sobriety, and we don't set them so large that they're unattainable and they start to cause us pressure, right? It's like one of the things I had to do was reorganize my life and my bathroom in particular, because that's where I abused opiates. And I started out by cleaning 1 drawer at a time and painting 1 drawer at a time, a different color. I needed to change my environment and completely clean it up so I didn't have any triggers in there anymore. And you know what? It's worked. And I found a lot of crap and I threw out a lot of stuff. So that was a practical thing. And then I got the bonus of a bright new bathroom, but it took me 2 months. I was pretty sick. Okay, so here we are on Awakening. Let us think about the 24 hours. We consider our plans for the day. So that's what we're doing when we're making this list and updating it. Before we begin this list, we say to God, direct my thinking, especially get me out of myself, man. Get me out of this self-pity, this dishonest or self-seeking motives. Because if I'm thinking like that, that is the wrong way to start the day. And sometimes when I wake up, I'm an alcoholic, and the first thing I'm thinking about is what somebody said to me yesterday, or I'll start watching the news and I'll get my back up and I'll be upset about politics or something. I don't do that anymore. I get the news in a way that isn't going to make me go here. And then I say the serenity prayer if I start to feel that way, because I can't afford to be here. So we start off the day saying no self-pity, no dishonesty, no self-seeking motives. Wow. You know what I had to change in this program? Everything. Because everything was around me. Everything was the Jill show. And it was for my own profit, my own growth. But that's not how it is today. I'm still working harder than I've ever worked, but the motives are completely different. Okay, so there's no self-seeking motives. So I can tick that box. Can you? So this is what you ask yourself these questions. It's not about whether I'm divorced from self-pity. Are you? Do you have dishonest or self-seeking motives that are pushing you to do what you're going to do today? Ask yourself the question. That's what this moment of meditation and reflection is about. Let's get into HP's plan, not Jill's plan. Because Jill's default plan from years of practice is going to be selfish. So I've got to say, all right, HP, you got me. Show me where you want me to go. Here's my list. Now let's make fun of it. Because half the time the things I think I'm going to do aren't the way the day turns out, but at least I had a plan. And every one of the things on my list was not self-seeking. Other benefit of putting things down on paper. What is your list? And that doesn't mean everything you do. Let me clarify. Everything on your to-do list, there's lots of things that we have to do that are self-preservation, right? That's different than self-seeking and self-pity. Doing an honest day's work or having to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, you can't always help people. You can't always do all the meetings you want to do. You can't always sponsor as many people as you'd like to. But as long, and I caution you from doing too much. It is about balance. But what I have to ask myself on everything on my to-do list is, what are my motives? What are my motives? That is the question that is now a working part of my mind. I pause, as we know we're going to talk about in a second. I reflect and I go, okay, during that pausing, what are my motives? Why am I turning left? Why am I not turning right? What are the pros and cons? What are the motives behind them? You ask yourself these questions, and it works for every relationship, every dilemma, because you'll also start to feel your guts churn when you're going in the wrong. Now, here's something really cool. My sponsor says to me, Jill, you got good instincts, and I've learned to take the compliment. And my gut, my woman's intuition, if I'm going the wrong way with something or somebody, and it can be somebody in the program, somebody I'm working with or whatever, my guts start to hurt. It just feels hard to open the door, if you understand what I'm saying, as opposed to a door that opens really easily with somebody. And if that door is shut or slammed in my face enough times, the book tells me I have to go and follow the door that's easier to help the individual that's opening the door. Does that make sense to you? It's like that with every decision I make. That doesn't mean I don't do difficult stuff. It doesn't mean I can't get away from working an 8-hour day if that's what I've got to do to pay the bills. But it means that I have to do it with a pure heart and with dignity and respect and with the right motives. Okay, I think everybody's nodding. So I think that looks like everybody's following this. Okay. So we've considered our plans. We've asked God to direct our thinking, asking us no self-pity, just okay, under these conditions. Okay, so all of that was a condition precedent. We had to get into that state of mind before we could employ our mental faculties with assurance. In other words, I'm not going to think straight until I've got all this other stuff out of the way. If I'm operating in self-pity, if I'm operating in resentment when I make my plan, the plan's not going to work because my motives are wrong. And then it says that beautiful line, for after all, God, HP, gave me my friggin' brain to use. So I think fundamentally, I'm an alcoholic that's lazy. I want a shortcut to not feel emotions. I find this is my theory on my drinking. Every time I've got to feel something that's going to make me really feel uncomfortable, especially things like a death or financial loss or something that is really upsetting and rocks my world, no program, I'm out there. No program. If I don't do this on a daily basis and something really bad happens, I'll phone you. I'll phone you because I need you like you need me, because we understand each other when we get to these points in our life where we've got our brains to use, but we can't. And we need to use one big brain by combining everybody in here and reaching out. So then it says at this point, that includes my higher power. HP's in on the conversation. If not the first one I've started in this conversation. And then it says our thought life. What is my thought life? It's what's going on in my head, in my own voice. It's the same voice that told me I could drink. It's the same voice that told me I could use more and more opiates and get away with it. But now it's on a much higher plane. Why? Because we've connected spiritually with HP. Do you see the difference? By going through this meditative process, these prayers, this connection every morning, we're on a higher plane because we're reminded every morning we can't be full of self-pity. We say these words every morning, but do we mean them? So next time you read these words, I want you to break it down for yourself just like this and read that paragraph before and ask yourself those questions. How am I doing? Yeah, okay, so I didn't finish it, but I think this is a really good place to stop because the next part is again introducing indecision. And right now, we have no indecision, right? In the paragraphs we've just read, we made peace with everything the night before. We opened the day with that list. We prayed to our higher power to guide us so that our motives were pure. And then we made our here's what we're going to do today list. So this is how we retire at night. So look up the nighttime prayer, and I've got them listed on the website for free at YouTube if you want to listen through them. But I invite you, as I said, make up your own. Make up your own. Listen to the ones that AA's got and they're recorded, right? And when you hear them, they're all just extracted from the big book. When you hear the 11th step prayer or the 10th step prayer, ask yourself, or the nighttime prayer, does that resonate with me? Is that my prayer? Or do I have to say, which I do, hey, HP, it's Jill. So here's where we've got to at the end of the day. And here's my list, right? Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? I'm not going to go through what my prayer is going to be, but I want you to personalize this because it's in the personalizing of these words that we get our program. I've got my program, and all I'm trying to do in here is share with you what's been working for me and what these words have meant to me for me to get to this point. So if there's anything that came out of this that worked for you, I'm going to stop the recording and I'd love to hear what you got out of that. Okay, let's stop recording.